Good Space students would like to present our Good Listening podcast. This came about with our exploration of issues or problems in our community that we felt needed to be explored and talked about. You will hear students sharing their concerns and solutions for the issues that affect them today, in Chicago and in the United States, fall-winter 2020-2021. Though we have been physically distant and learning remotely, we can use our voices to come together to bring awareness to the problems that really concern all of us, to use this platform to continue the conversation as a foundation to bring about change. And if we want change, we have to speak up. Please join us and listen to Voices of Good.
More than 85% of plastic pollution in the rivers, sea, and ocean comes mainly from land. The problem with using plastic has several effects on everyone, but there is a chance it can and will affect your loved ones. These plastics have toxic elements and chemicals that can change hormones and have negative effects to the health of people you care about. The reason reducing plastic is such a problem because, as we all know, plastic is one of the most harmful things. It can damage our environments. In the burning process, plastic produces carbon dioxide and damages our bodies by going into our lungs and messing up our eyesight. This shows how much this can and will get worse with everything else going on. The text states production increased from 2.3 million tons in 1950s to 448 million tons by 2015. Plastic is the world's first waste problem. Do you know that the world uses 500 billion single-use plastic bags every year? For my project is to get everyone in the school to understand the dangers of plastic and how much harm it can cause in our everyday surroundings. Other things you can do for everyday things are to stop buying bottled water. Bottled water is the most easiest target for reducing waste. Instead, keep a refillable bottle handy. Choose reusable totes instead of using plastic bags. Some steps I will take is to get a water filter and use that, so no more water bottles. I plan to get everyone to understand the harmful effects and to help them discover ways to not use plastic.
Want to be stuck in the 1900s, or would you rather step up to make a change and work towards your future? Today, I'm talking to you about an issue that impacts not just us, but all students. The school system, which hasn't changed the way they teach students. Something schools should keep in mind is that no two students are the same. Since the 1900s till present times, school has been slowly adapting to new circumstances but hasn't changed.
Education has been the same for a very long time, and it is time for a change.
Students should be learning something that they enjoy and would like to learn more about it. Students would be more focused on school than rather not paying attention. Besides, if students go to school to learn, we should also be able to choose something of our liking.
Because as years go by, kids think differently and learn differently.
School teaches students to memorize formulas or lessons that students have no interest in. Based on my experiences, many of my friends have complained about this and have asked what's the point of learning all this. And parents and teachers often dispute this by saying that this will help students in the end, but don't acknowledge how behind schools are in teaching.
We can solve this issue by letting schools and teachers know that they should stop and reassure the kids are good with the lessons that they are learning and help out the kids that need extra help with, because school is hard from my own experience. If I never got the help I asked for, I would never pass some classes.
Education should be on what we want to learn, so students could actually get knowledge on what they want to do.
Like, for an example, when a teacher makes all students read the same book, but I feel like sometimes other students can't like process the reading, and it's hard for them to learn it. And there's some students I know all that and it's easy for them, so I feel like it's like different levels.
Modern day schooling has been the same for the last century, and it is time for a change, and with speeches and evidence like this, we can do that.
An option to fixing the solution is updating the way students learn every few years so that they are getting the most from learning.
Maybe it would help if they had a conversation with the class, like the teachers, and how the class in general could learn better, or maybe be more supportive with late work or or an assignment that a student couldn't understand or complete.
Some of us learn by seeing and others learn by hearing. We are all not the same.
Students can also help with the issue. We can come together and speak up for what we want. Students should also have a say in their education.
One country that comes up when discussing models for education reform is Finland, a nation that boasts some of the highest test scores in the world. It is also a nation where students are provided small class sizes and the child poverty rate is 3.4%, compared to the United States' 21.7%. Finland is one of the top scoring schools, and they have achieved that by changing the way they teach students and making sure their needs are met. People should aim to attend school that actually satisfies their needs and wants. Schools that will interest them and make them interested in topics that they want to learn in. Although the path won't be easy, we can make a change and improve life in schooling, not just for us, but for our community and future generations as well.
Teenage depression and anxiety. So many teens around the world have committed suicide because of secretly suffering from depression and anxiety and feeling alone. So many teens feel like they are alone, they won't be understood, they won't be taken seriously, all because they are afraid of what their parents might say. You need to know about it because some might be embarrassed by what their friends might say if they told them what was going on. It's important to be on the lookout. The reason teenage depression and anxiety is a problem is because 70% of teens can't handle it mentally. They may feel overwhelmed by the different emotions they have at times. They might be tired of feeling that way and want to give up. This is also important because not having a supportive person in your corner could really take a toll on some people. After a deadline in the 1990s, the number of young people that have committed suicide has been increasing every year. While no one can explain exactly why, many experts say adolescents and teens today probably face more pressure at home or school, worrying about financial issues for their families, and use more alcohol and drugs. About 20% of teens experience depression before they reach adulthood. There are a variety of Chicago community access to help. A school counselor is an easily accessible tool when you are feeling the way, any type of way, whether it's depressed, mad, sad, or angry. Going to a school counselor is a good reference. A Chicago organization for teen anxiety and depression is No Shame on You. It helps with teens or anyone who is suffering from depression, anxiety, and having suicidal thoughts. If this issue was successfully addressed, the community will look so much better in the younger generation. More children will be happier and actually mean it. They will maybe want to open up a little more than what they actually did. Teens will have less anger built up in them. Teens tend to take their anger out on people to cause fights to get their anger out. But if the situation was addressed, we would probably see less than that. Specifically, the parents can take action by checking on their child mentally. Parents think they know everything about their child, but in reality, they don't. And instead of parents just assuming children are okay, they should take the time out and ask. Have a conversation with them. Let them know that they aren't alone when they're going through things they necessarily don't want to talk about. Imagine what it would look like when a person genuinely is happy. Their body language change, daily routine changes, social media post changes, and they start being happier within themselves. It would be a great feeling.
Have you ever lost somebody or seen people suffer from gun violence? I'm sure you have, but even if you haven't suffered it yourself, millions around the world have. This issue has been around for a long time. It's been getting worse by the day, and we have not been doing anything about it.
It's crazy because I've witnessed gun violence right in front of me, and it's not a good feeling.
Gun violence is a daily tragedy affecting the lives of individuals around the world.
Because it isn't like any other issue. It leads to bad injuries and sometimes sadly death. And it isn't right to lose someone like that.
Gun violence happens every day and the numbers just keep rising. Acknowledge that gun violence is an issue. Spend money on programs that tackle gun violence and give counseling to those that have been traumatized by gun violence.
It takes away the lives of people who aren't supposed to live yet. It takes away the lives of the innocents who the bullet was meant for other people, but they were just in the way. Nobody's life should be taken away by gun violence, period.
I feel like it will never end because there's poverty. And if there's poverty, there are hardworking parents who can't give their kids attention, or no parents at all, or just no money at all. This makes kids hungry for money, and the only escape is selling drugs. And in order to sell drugs, there's gangs, and it just keeps escalating until shootings happen.
And that's the worst because you don't want anybody from your family and friends dying. So I feel like you should spread awareness and stay safe because you never know. what could happen.
Also, if cops would resort more to their tasers and less to their guns.
The gun violence rate in Chicago shows that it increases every year, and if we don't make a change, it's going to continue to increase.
It's not like we can, honestly, because there will always be someone who will keep a weapon on them no matter what. Gun violence has spread around the world, but has been a big problem in Chicago, especially. Chicago is responsible for nearly half of 2016's increase in homicides in the U.S. Gun violence must be stopped. Thank you.
The problem in my community is racism. Racism is an issue because people are simply hated just off the color of their skin and put in danger. Names of the black people killed: Rashard Brooks, 27, DUP, 41, George Floyd, 46, Breonna Taylor, 26.
Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times by a racist cop named Jason Zandai. In 2014, my best friend's older brother was shot by police 25 times because the police thought he robbed a local candy store because he fit the description. 6'5", African-American, red hoodie, and weighs about 120 pounds. The officer didn't even search him. He just started shooting.
On average, black men in the U.S. receive sentences that are 19.1% longer than those of white men convicted for the same crimes.
Population, 32% black. Victims of use of force, 72%. Population, 32% white. Victims of use of force, 10%.
In etc., the community has started a Black Lives Matter protest downtown in Chicago during the summer.
Racism doesn't only happen to adults. Sad as it is, schools advertise themselves as a safe environment for your child to learn and grow, where kids are also feeling unsure on whether they want to go because they're being treated poorly and unfairly. It can be damaging even if you haven't been the target of it. Regardless of your personal experiences, it can be stressful just being a member of a group that is often discriminated against, such as racial minorities or individuals who identify themselves in the LGBT community.
My community would look like more African Americans going outside without any issues with police officers that causes them to use excessive force. I want people to stand up for each other when they see something that's not right. Have a phone out at all times for proof. Also, I want people to stop assuming every person is harmful because of what they look like. 7 in 10 African Americans have experienced police brutality.
Often discrimination stems from fear and misunderstanding.
One activist I know personally is Miracle. She was a former Goode student. I feel that we should start more protests, community programs, and so many more.
I want people to speak up for themselves and let their voices be heard. This world needs us.
Hello, my name is Luis Morales, and today I'll be talking about body shaming. It's really surprising how many people get teased or judged on how they look every single day and how many are affected drastically by the words that are told to them. Body shaming is a serious issue in society and all around the world because many are affected by it and are judged on the daily. For instance, I was affected by it because I was chubby back then, and many of the kids used to call me names, and those comments lowered my self-esteem. The reason body shaming is a problem is because it can lead to serious problems physically and mentally, and most of the time causes a person to lead into depression. People who are body shamed causes a person to lose motivation and have lower self-esteem compared to others. In addition, many experts have made tests and said that many people react differently to being body shamed. Most of them are lowered by the words they are told, but rarely it motivates some people to start making a change. In another article, it also talks about a woman being more insecure and hurt by the negative words they are told. Experts state that 97% of women have at least one cruel thing about their body each day. Experts also say that body shaming can also lead to suicidal thoughts, which is a major problem. In conclusion, many people deal with body shaming, and it's a problem to society that can be resolved and possibly save multiple lives. It can also bring the world up instead of bringing each other down, which can be a major solution to society and how things may be resolved. Thank you for listening, and hopefully this problem gets resolved or recognized by others.
My topic is COVID-19. Think about what you were doing 1 year ago from today. It's crazy to say that we were all living entirely different lives than what we are right now. Nobody ever thought we would get to this point in our lives. Imagine if everybody took COVID serious from the start. Now, my issue with this whole COVID situation is that not that there was anything we could have done to stop it, but we could have prevented it from killing as many people as it did. There are things we can still do so that the virus doesn't spread as much. There is actually proof that shows that there are things people can do so that their area becomes COVID-free. For example, in New Zealand, they are COVID-free because they took it more serious and they have more strict rules. The reason for the COVID numbers being so high is because people who don't follow basic protocols. They recently came out with a vaccine, but there are still things we could do so that the numbers of cases go down. In the article Choose Chicago, I read some very useful tips to keep yourself as healthy as possible. In the article, it says cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you cough or sneeze, or use the inside of your elbow. This is something everybody can do, and by doing this, it is helping reduce the spread. Some things I read was that also try to keep hand sanitizer on you in case water is not available. Always wear your mask. This is important because a lot of ignorant people don't like thinking for others. People think just because you don't feel any symptoms means you don't have COVID. I personally knew people who tested positive and didn't feel any differently. Just because you don't feel anything doesn't mean you can't spread it to someone who has a high risk of getting possibly killed. The thing that bothers me is when people try and claim that COVID is fake. I feel bad for people that see these comments and were affected badly by COVID. Everybody takes things differently. Some people are very sensitive, and it's just very disrespectful to say something's fake when it ruined people's lives. So maybe we can't fix this whole situation, but we could definitely save people's lives still.
Hi, my name is Sandra Cisneros. Today I'll be talking to you about why trash in your community can be dangerous and harmful, not just for your community, but for the whole world as well. Trash does not just stay in one spot. Trash moves around, and it can start from the front of your house and it can end in the middle of the ocean. In an article called Impacts of Mismanaged Trash, it states how trash harms oceans and our planets. Of all trash, plastic trash has the greatest potential to harm the environment, wildlife, and humans. It can be found floating on the surface suspenders of the water columns or on the bottom of almost all bodies of water. It is transported by rivers to oceans where it moves with the currents, and it is often eaten by birds and fish, concentrating toxic chemicals in their tissues and filling their stomachs, causing them to starve. Plastic aquatic debris is much more than a mere aesthetic problem. We can avoid all this from happening if we just stop littering and if we just keep our community clean. If we start to maintain a cleaner and safer community for everyone, we will be lowering down the chances of global warming, and we will also be helping our environment as well. I believe that if we all just put a part of our time to keep our streets clean, we can be helping our planet in many helpful and healthier ways, such as having cleaner air, cleaner waters, and no animal extinction. And we will get to have a clean planet for our future generations.
Imagine you're going into a healthcare clinic to get an abortion. While waiting in the car before going in, you see a crowd of people protesting with anti-abortion signs like baby killer or signs saying in God's court abortion is murder.
As a woman, I say that abortion should always be a choice. Many of us get in situations where it is the only option. Some reasons may be that they don't have enough money to support a child, as well as the environment may not be fit for a kid to grow up in.
If the woman does not want a child at that moment and doesn't want it to be in a foster home where mostly kids get mistreated and grow up with issues, then the woman does not have to have the child.
And you have the right to do what you want to do. Because, sometimes you're too young and you don't want to have a baby.
Abortion rights can be difficult for women. But even that, women shouldn't be ashamed for getting an abortion. And women shouldn't get negative thoughts from other people for doing it. Imagine if you were in this situation, or someone you love. You wouldn't want them to feel ashamed for something that no one else should be criticizing. How awful it would make them feel. It isn't right to make someone else feel that way.
I would say you disagree because you're killing/destroying a life that could have lived and would be happy.
I have women in my life that I care about a lot and trust, and if they believe that this is the right choice for their own bodies, I will have to agree. Plus, the situation they're in may not be a safe or good enough environment to rise in the economical world.
Abortion is a woman's right, and women need to have access to abortion clinics and getting abortions. Too often, many people are uneducated or misinformed about abortion. This leads to people holding signs calling women who are getting an abortion murderers. Vice even reported on the fake abortion clinics all over America that gave women misinformation about abortion to drive women away from getting one. People need to be educated on the matter and need to know that abortion is a woman's right. They should not be involved with what women are doing with their bodies.
South Carolina has 14 abortion restrictions, and also some of the worst outcomes for women's health in the country. In 2015, 1/3 of South Carolina had no dedicated healthcare providers. This just shows that women in South Carolina have been discriminated against and stripped from a basic women right. Unlike Chicago, we have organizations that can help with information and funding for abortions. One of these organizations is called Chicago Abortion Fund, and their mission is to have advanced reproductive autonomy and justice for everyone by providing financial, logistical, and emotional support to people seeking abortion services, and by building a collective power and foster partnerships for political and cultural change.
There have been many cases where babies are found in the street or at someone's doorstep. There's many ways to fix this problem. We can teach our students more about how to be safe while having sex. We can also be more strict about sex ed.
We can solve this issue by also using protection if you want to avoid this choice. And be careful so you wouldn't end up pregnant also if you don't like this choice.
Something people can do to avoid this problem is to ban protesters outside abortion centers.
I need all men and women to bring attention to this problem and make it a basic women's right to be able to freely and comfortably get abortions. I need you to stand up and fight for a basic right and women's need. As a woman myself, I need to have the right for an abortion or abortions because I don't want to die from risks of childbirth or an ectopic pregnancy. There are so many reasons women could want or have an abortion. And if I ever needed one, I wouldn't want anyone or anything to get in my way. After all, it's my body, my choice.
You have been listening to Voices of Good, brought to you by Sarah E. Good students in the Space class. Now be sure to engage and make a change.